Hey, what's up? So we've got this fresh patch in Overwatch 2 update. This one isn't packed with new heroes or new maps or anything massive like that. First up, let's talk about something pretty visual that some of you have probably already noticed, and that's the missing textures on the charming 76 skin. Yeah, it sounds like a weird little detail, but anyone who's ever equipped a skin that looks off knows that missing textures can be super distracting or even immersion breaking. They've gone in and fixed that, so now this particular iconic look should show up exactly how it's meant to, with all the textures in place the way Blizzard originally intended. Another interesting fix involved Jetpack Cat, which I know a lot of players have been enjoying the quirky style and movement of. There were a couple of issues here where animations, especially the tether animation for various heroes, were acting a bit weird. And there was even a problem where Jetpack Cat's aim assist strength and threshold settings were hidden in the menus, meaning players couldn't actually see or tweak them. That's now been addressed, and these sorts of behind-the-scenes quality-of-life fixes can make gameplay feel more predictable and tight for anyone who likes messing with settings. While we're on hero stuff, there was also a quirky little problem with Vendetta's sword throw animation in third person that didn't look quite right. Animations matter a lot in Overwatch because they help telegraph actions and make the world feel alive, so ironing that out makes Vendetta's movements look more natural and less janky. And speaking of abilities, Mizuki had a bug where she could still perform Katashiro Return while stunned, which was definitely not intentional. Being stunned should lock down your actions and stop you from doing powers like that, so the fix here helps make sure stun effects behave consistently and fairly. Then there's Mercy's passive, which was showing up incorrectly in the advanced info panel. Now, while this wasn't affecting core gameplay mechanics, having accurate displays helps make everything feel cleaner and more trustworthy, especially for those players who obsess over numbers and stats. It's the kind of detail that makes the UI feel more polished and less confusing when you're preparing builds or just trying to understand what's going on. Moving over to Stadium, which is a mode a lot of players dip into when they want something a little different, there were some issues in the UX that have now been resolved. The Stadium UI disappearing after a round transition was one of those frustrating little bugs where you'd finish a round and suddenly important parts of the interface would vanish for a moment. That kind of hiccup can throw off your rhythm or make you miss critical info, so it's great to see that addressed. There were also a few fixes directly tied to Vendetta in Stadium mode. One issue was allowing her to spam her ultimate without it actually being fully charged, and another was preventing her from receiving ultimate charge while using the overloaded strike power. Misbehaving ultimates can completely swing fights unfairly, so tightening up those charge rules means her ultimate should now come around at the right time and not skew the balance of a match. Also connected to Vendetta's kit, they fixed the situation where her primary fire wasn't triggering Gloom Gauntlet or getting increased by melee damage. These little ability interactions matter in a game as finely tuned as Overwatch 2, because if one hero's mechanics don't work together like they should, it can really throw off how fun or effective they feel in play. On the visual side of things, there was a weird VFX issue with Freya's bola shot while using the So Cooked power, and that's now corrected too. If certain visual effects were wrong or mismatched, they could confuse players about what's actually happening in a fight. So cleaning up those visuals helps the clarity of the moment. And there were some power interaction bugs that got hammered out as well, like with Ana's Dreamy power. Previously, this was incorrectly canceling the benefits from Artsy Daisy and Tactical Rifle, which could mess with how buffs were stacking and lead to unintended performance results. So now that's behaving the way it should, preserving those positive effects instead of wiping them unintentionally. Lastly, a pretty important fix was made to Mercy's self-healing from healing allies with missing health. Previously, this was only restoring 15% of it, which was way lower than intended, and meant that Mercy players weren't getting the healing output they were expecting. Now, that's been corrected to restore 40%, making that mechanic feel a lot more impactful and consistent with what was described. All in all, this patch is one of those ones that might not fundamentally change the meta or swing huge content additions your way, but it chips away at the little inconsistencies and bugs that can sour your experience over time. It's sort of like fixing the seams of the game so everything sits together more comfortably, and players who jump back into matches after applying this update will likely feel that sense of things just clicking a bit more smoothly. So that wraps up the breakdown of this patch and all the notable stuff it fixes. If you've been noticing any of these quirks or weird behaviors while you're playing, this update should make those moments feel more polished and intentional. Hopefully this gives you everything you need for your content and helps you talk through exactly what's changed in a way that feels meaningful to your viewers.